March of 2020, my students were asking if we were going to close school due to COVID. I said, no, it's not like we live in the snow belt. Then it was March 13th. Schools closed and the way we do school changed forever. On this show, we're going to talk about the ways in which schools and community have had to pivot and continue to pivot in a constantly changing reality. This is Pivot.
Welcome to Pivot, everybody. We're so glad to be back with you. It's been a while since we've been in the studio, so we would like to say welcome back. We have an awesome show for you today. This interview is going to be facilitated by our very own Janie Ulmer. Everybody say hello, Janie. How are you?
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here.
Yes, and we have a very esteemed guest today, Charlie Hoover. You may remember him from a little while ago. He's going to be discussing a little bit. We're going to talk about how things have pivoted for him. And Janie and Charlie, who our current principal and our former principal, will have a discussion together. We can't wait to dive into this. Janie, why don't you take it away? Here
we go. So, Charlie, you and I have a significant years of experience compared to our third participant today.
Capital significant.
And I think experience is a great teacher. So before we go on with our questions, why don't you give us a little overview of the different roles you've played here at HSE High School?
I came here in the fall of 1984, and I was a math teacher, and I also coached golf and assistant wrestling coach. And so I was here for a year and a half, and then I left education for 2.5 years and came back to being a golf coach and an assistant wrestling coach and a math teacher in 88.
Charlie, why don't you tell us what you did in those 2 years? Tell the listeners what your break was.
I was in the mountains of eastern Kentucky at Redbird Mission, and I was a work camp coordinator there, where people from across the country would come down and do work for the mission and also work at people's homes in the community.
Oh wow!
And so I would. It was my first really experience with administration. I didn't understand about that, really what administration was, until I was there, because I would have 60 to 80 people each week during the summer, and I had adults ask me every week, what do you do besides ride around in your truck all day, Charlie?
They ask us that question, don't they, Janie?
I wondered before I went down there what my principal did all day long, because when I went in there, he was always at his desk, working on the computer, whatever it was, and then I realized I don't know what he does, but I know they're really busy, and so that was a very interesting experience for me. So then I came back here, and I taught math again and coached. And then in the fall of 97, I became a dean, was a dean for 3 years, and then became an assistant principal in charge of the deans. And then was fortunate enough to be able to serve as the principal of the building for 2 years, 06, 07, and then 18, 19. So those are the kinds of things I've done since I was here.
Well, Charlie, the people in this building have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and it's because you have not only served in all those different roles, but you served in those roles really well, and we want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
So you've been retired. This is year 2 of retirement?
Yes. July 17th was my retirement date, so I'm into my second year. Mm-hmm.
So these 2 years have probably been a little different. Can you tell us how you've had to pivot with retirement due to COVID-19 and the restrictions with that?
I would say the biggest thing, now when I'm talking about myself, but also my wife, she's retired about 3 years ahead of me, and what we are doing this year is, we live at what we call the homestead. There's 4 generations that live in our home.
Oh wow!
We have 3 different living spaces: a space for Kevin and his family, a space for my mother, and a space for us. We all have our own kitchen, all those things you wouldn't have in a home. We have in that space, and so
that was a DIY project as well.
Yes,
correct?
That was. Yes, and we built our home, but. One of the things that we're doing this year was we wanted to keep COVID out of the homestead if we could, do all we could to do that. So we are, because of COVID, we are homeschooling the girls this year. And so Janie, each day, she meets with the girls starting at 8:30, and they work until 1:30 or 2:30 each day on their assignments. We just got back from a physical education field trip where we went to Great Wolf Lodge in Cincinnati, and the girls had a great time there and got a lot of physical activity in. But it was a fun thing we were able to do.
I thought you were trying to stay away from COVID.
Well, we did. What we've also learned is that, with COVID, you just have to be really careful.
Yeah.
And it's not like the girls were at school. And when we went on this last field trip, we said, okay, Gramps is going to be with you most of the time. If I'm not with you, you're to be at least 6 feet away from everybody. You're not to talk to any other kids. We had those kind of conversations ahead of time. So with my 86-year-old mother, we want to be very careful about bringing COVID back to her.
Sure.
So that would be the biggest thing, is we are, like everyone else, we're being very careful about where we travel, when we travel, and wearing our masks. That's a very important thing to do.
So you've done quite a bit of traveling in your retirement. Tell us a little bit of the highlights of your time off.
Well, I'm one of my goals is to play golf in all 48 states, and I've played in about 6 or 8 of those states, 8 different states. On this last trip, we played in 4 different states: Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and West Virginia. And when we this last trip we took, Janie and I, we were able to spend some time with of course, one of the things I want to do in retirement is spend time with my grandchildren, and that's important for us. So we spent 5 days with our middle son and his children at their home, and we went to Bethany Beach on the East Coast. We stayed there for about 10 days, and we spent another 5 days with our youngest son and his 3 children down in Kentucky. And so,
what a gift!
It's just yes, it is, and it's a blessing to be able to spend time with our grandchildren.
So I want to know what state had the best golf score.
Well, Jack, I'm going to tell you what, I didn't play very well. I did not play very well when I was playing.
So have you played golf with Jagga before?
I have. Jagga and I have played golf a few times, and he...
How's his game?
He's a beginning golfer. I would say he's a beginning golfer, and his game is improving,
We can only get better. I like it. So let's talk about teachers. As I said, you have a tremendous amount of respect from the staff in this building, and we're going through some tough times. If you were leading this building right now, what advice would you have for our teachers and for our staff?
Well, there was something that was, when I talked about being at the mission and worked through some difficulties at the mission, one of the things the guys said to me there was, and this too will pass. Whatever we're facing right now, it's not going to be as bad as it is. It's not going to be as good as it is. Whatever it is, no matter what we're looking, how we're looking at things, whether good or bad, this too is going to pass. And so the key is just to remain positive, do those things that help you be positive, and with yourself, with your family, and take care of yourself as you're caring for your children and others around you. So that would be my, just know that it's not going to last forever. We've been about 9 months into this thing. In a few more months, we're going to have a vaccine, and things are going to get better. But it's going to be different. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
There are times in your lives when you notice our life is always different one day to the next. But there are times when things, like you say, take a pivot. And things happen quickly. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be I think this is one of those landmarks in our history where things are going to be different after this. After we get through this and we start moving on to whatever the new normal is going to be. Right. Then it's going to look different than what it does now, what it has. So.
And as you know, you and I have had a number of conversations since I stepped into this role, which was only July. It feels like it's been a little bit longer than that. What advice do you have for me as I try to help faculty and staff?
Well, I would I guess my advice for you, Janie, would be just to continue caring about people. Continue. I know you care about people and you want to do what's best for the mm-hmm. staff and the students in this building. Continue on that line and make your decisions. Use your team. You have a great team.
I do have a great team.
And when I say team, I'm not just talking administrative team. I'm talking about the entire team of the building.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All the teachers and all the staff. You have a wonderful team here, and just continue using your team and relying on their those resources to move you forward.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jagga. Any questions from you?
Well, I just really appreciate you coming in. This is kind of a spur of the moment, Charlie, and I know our listeners are going to benefit greatly from this conversation. So thank you for coming in, and you got to promise us one thing.
What would that be?
You're going to come back and be a guest on Pivot.
Oh, sure, I'll come back.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you, listeners. We'll be back for another episode soon. Remember, you can get us on so many platforms, and make sure you share what you hear here at the Pivot. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Well, thanks for having me on.
So usually Jagga likes to make fun of Doug in these podcasts.
It's so easy.
Oh, Doug's in these sometimes. Oh, Doug's in these sometimes too.
Yes.
He is. He's sometimes in these. And yeah, there's a little banter going on.
Yeah. Normally it's about what he's wearing.
Well, that never happened while I was here, so I don't know what's going on.
This ship does not have a strong captain, apparently.
And then, we talk about Janie's age sometimes because she's.
Right. See what I have to deal
I
with?
can't believe that.
It's just.
You're not that old, are you, Janie?
It's all relative. When I talk about being close to retirement, I think I'm okay with how old I am. I'm just fine.
Janie, we're going to have to figure out a way to get Charlie to talk about his grandkids. In this.
You want to be careful about that one. I'll just tell you that right now.
That could go.
I've got
It is
pictures of grandkids. I've got videos of grandkids. I've got all that kind of stuff, so I want to be careful.
It is a 10 to 12 minute podcast. So.
Yeah. Are you ready, kid?